When you're planting fall cover crops, forage crops, or even food plots for livestock or wildlife, there's something that is far more important than any planting date. And in this video, I'm going to tell you what is the most important thing, at least for me in my context, in North Mississippi when I'm planting fall crops. Let me take you back a few days when I started planting these 3 acres of fields, and I'll pick you up after we talk about those. It's Rob from Dowdle Family Farms, and we are in the middle of planting our fall or cool season cover crops. Ironically, we're planting a mixture of warm season crops along with cool season crops in different fields, and in some fields we're mixing them. I'm about to overseed the field that I'm standing in right here. Sophia has just disced it on the tractor, and she's currently running the disc on the tractor in the next field over. She has gotten quite proficient running that tractor with the disc. It's amazing to see how good she's gotten this thing. And Sophia's run over this with a disc. I've got our Kawasaki mule with just a little battery powered seeder spreader on the back. First thing I'm going to do is put some oats in here. This is a 1 acre field, so I'm going to put about 50 pounds of oats. I'm going to put about 20 to 25 pounds of peas, a few pounds of clover seed, and I've also got some buckwheat that I'm going to put in here just because it's not going to survive the winter. Here's 50 pounds of live oats. I'm sure there are better oat varieties that you can get. It's what our local co-op sells. I grew it last year for our cows and performed really well, so I'm just using it. I did about 50 pounds of oats, 20 pounds of those spring peas, about 8 or 10, maybe 12 pounds of red clover per acre. And for the first time ever, I actually planted some Boston plantain. We have a lot of it that grows wild in some of these areas, but I did put about 1 pound per acre in these fields to kind of spread it out a little bit more. After a light disking to incorporate that vegetation that we had bush hogged, Sophia did that for me, and then I ran over it and broadcast those larger seeds, primarily the oats and the peas, and then I broadcast the radishes and others. By far the most important thing when I'm looking at planting any crops, spring, summer, and most importantly the fall or winter cover crops or late summer cover crops, is soil moisture. Now don't get me wrong, I don't plant a cool season based cover crop in June, though sometimes I'll mix in some cool season crops along with warm season crops. But many of these cool season forages have growing zones, and then they recommend planting by a specific date, September 15th, October 15th. During those dates, it is dry, dry, dry. There's no way to get soil moisture. This year, it didn't get dry until August, but it's still dry right now. For us, these cover crops aren't just about improving soil health, though they do. They're not just about attracting deer to our property, part of the primary operation of our business. And it's critical that we get a good stand. Now the field that I'm standing in here, I am irrigating. I planted them right before rain. They germinated, sprouted well, but now they desperately need water to perform very well. And this field with the peanuts and the daikon radishes and the buckwheat is going to be an outstanding field for our fall forage options in another month or two. And you can just tell by looking in the field, this has been irrigated. Take a look at the mung beans, at the daikon radishes that you see on the ground. Just look at how green and functional they are. This area right here that I'm irrigating now, you can tell is yellowish. They are starving for water. I think I'm about to get wet. Well, there went that. Hey girls, how you doing over there? We do plant a lot of drought tolerant forages, but the most nutritious forages for our livestock are not drought tolerant. Let me show you very briefly a little point of comparison between two fields but how the buckwheat performed in them with just a little bit, 10 days difference in soil moisture. This is the buckwheat here. You see how spindly it is. It's dying out, so it's not doing much, but it's got a few seed pods on it right there. You see that it stopped blooming. That's one of the better looking things of buckwheat. That plant right there looks really, really bad. It's real short, 10 inches tall. Let me take you back behind the house that we just purchased, on the part of the farm that's adjacent to this part. And let me show you some fields that I planted just as the rain was stopping. Now, this field in a straight line is about a quarter mile from those fields that I planted, but it's adjacent to the property. There's the old house that we bought and our family's redoing. If you haven't seen that channel, let me encourage you to check it out. It's the old Dowdle Farmstead. But this field right here, I planted, I think it was July 31st. You can see that the sunflowers are blooming and they are beautiful out here. Of course, we've also got the sorghum Sudan grass, and because of the weather, the sorghum Sudan grass is starting to go on to seed a little bit earlier than normal. But I want to offer the point of comparison between this and the buckwheat. Now keep in mind, this buckwheat was planted earlier, so it's going to be going to seed earlier. But what you can tell is that this plant right here that you see has a bunch of seed pods, several branches, and it is roughly 2 feet tall. And that is typical of many of the buckwheat plants out here. They're just thriving out here because they had more soil moisture. And it was all because they were planted about 10 days different. I'll try to get the exact planting date. And of course, you may also notice that in this field, we've got some daikon radishes as well. I planted the daikon radish as early as July 15th. Nobody recommends planting them that early in Mississippi that I know of. But especially if they're mixed in with some warmer season cover crops, like some buckwheat to help give them a little bit of shade, or sorghum Sudan grass and sunflowers, they perform beautifully. They can put on some good roots. The pigs love both the root and the top, and they do really well. Let me encourage you to take soil moisture into account when you're planting your cover crops. Earlier this year, I had a conversation with Keith Burns from Green Cover Seed, but he says that they often, in their warm season cover crop mixes, if it's coming on to cooler weather, they'll go in and put cool season cover crops in there. Things like red clover, daikon radishes, and others, because they will go on and perform well.
Again, in the heat of the Mississippi summer, I don't know that I would do much cool season grass. You know, if you were starting to get later in the season, you know, like planting in August or September, where it's going to grow into the fall, then I would start looking at including some oats or barley or triticale. But if you're on the front end of the summer, probably wouldn't do that.
And I have found that to be true over the last 2 or 3 years based on my own experience as well. The reality of planting fall season crops, the planting dates are a lot more flexible. What is not flexible is soil moisture. Whether you irrigate it like I do from a pond, or whether you plant warm season crops that are more drought tolerant, like sorghum Sudan grass. By the way, none of this out here on this part of the farm, none of this on our old farmstead is actually irrigated. Only the other parts of the farm are right now. If you live in an environment like I do, especially in the Mid-South, where you may or may not get a whole lot of soil moisture, let me encourage you to consider soil moisture over planting dates. Planting dates are a lot more flexible. And there are exceptions to this rule. Because I'm in a milder climate, quite frankly, I can plant most cool season cover crops year round here in Mississippi. Yes, we'll get some lows into the high teens occasionally, but our average soil temperature is higher than 40 degrees in January and February. So we can plant cereal rye, we can plant wheat, we can plant peas, we can plant clovers as long as we have soil moisture. If you live in an area where the only soil moisture you're going to get in the winter or in the fall is snow, this may not work for you. but it is so important in many environments to consider soil moisture over the average high and low temperatures for the days and nights. I hope this video was helpful. Y'all take care. Check out our old Dowdle Farmstead channel if you want to. I'll put a link in the video description of some of the crops that we're growing. Y'all take care. Have a great day.